What's up, dude?
Hey, it's false. Well, we had our fall spring. Now it's winter again here in North
Right,
Carolina.
we're in third winter. Yeah, I was gonna say for the cold opening, we could talk about how it was 70 degrees 2 days ago, and now it's 30 again. Where I
Dude,
am.
it was 86 here, and
Yeah.
then last night it got down to 32.
I'm trying to do an install outside my house. I'm putting up. I'm replacing a camera with a new camera, and I'm putting that camera in the back. But where I'm replacing the camera, uh, I only have one Ethernet cable, and I don't want to draw more lines. But I have a Ubiquiti switch that has PoE plus 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 because they can't come up with a better name. And apparently there's enough power going through plus 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 to power the Unify Flex switch, which takes PoE plus plus in and puts out 5 PoE plus. Pay attention, people. And from there, I can put an outdoor AP and this camera. And I got the junction box installed, and I got the switch installed, and then I realized I didn't have the right type of Ethernet cables to do the camera because it can't have it can't be the snagless ones that have like that like rubber piece in
Right.
front. So I ordered more cables, and they got here yesterday, and they were covered in snow because it started to snow here last night. And I was like, well, I guess this project's on hold until fall. Despite it being 70 degrees outside, I still sit down here with my heater on because for those who check us out at youtube.com/@allthingsmsp, that's an outside wall that's underground. So the cold stays in here, and it's terrible.
No, but when I had a basement in Florida, that was great.
You had basements in Florida? They don't have basements in Florida.
Not very often, but we were actually in an older house that was built into a hill. And so, yes, it was a great bomb shelter / office for a while.
Well, that seems nice. My office is cold. Come warm me up! Near.
Level up your email domain security and deliverability. Reduce business email compromise and reel in that pesky email phishing. Make DMARC a new revenue stream for your MSP. Becoming a managed service provider partner with EasyDMARC is a great opportunity for your business to boost sales and decrease risk. Your customers need DMARC. Your job is to let them know that their email domain might be at risk. Find out more today at atmsp.link/EasyDMARC. That's atmsp.link/EasyDMARC. Let's be honest, tracking Microsoft 365 licenses and Azure consumption manually is a profit killer. If you're still using spreadsheets to reconcile your billing, you're likely leaving money on the table every single month. That's where Sync 365 comes in. No more missed renewals, no more oops on prorated charges, and zero manual data entry. Sync 365 captures those mid-month changes automatically, ensuring your margins stay exactly where they belong. Stop the billing chaos and start recovering that lost revenue today. Head over to atmsp.link/sync365 to get started. That's atmsp.link/SYNC365.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the All Things MSP Podcast. I am your host, Justin Esgar, and with me always, Eric Anthony. Now listen, before we make any fun of Eric's beard today's topic is going to be about the disconnect between vendors and MSPs. And I specifically asked for a vendor disconnect joke about your beard. So you still can't talk yet until I say something. The vendor MSP relationship sometimes feels like Eric's beard. It started with good intentions, and now nobody knows how to fix it. Mr. Eric Anthony, everybody.
Well, that's kind of true. A lot of people don't realize how much work it takes, especially if you have a curly beard. You can let it go, but it just looks like this bird's nest of whatever. However, this episode is probably the last one where you will see this length of beard.
There's a real disconnect between vendors and MSPs, about the same distance as Eric and a razor.
That's pretty true until tomorrow, actually.
Until tomorrow. Yeah. You know what? I wouldn't shave it off until real spring. We're currently we were in fall spring the other day. If you listen to Cold Open, we were in fall spring the other day, and now we're in third winter. We used to have 4 seasons, but especially up here in the Northeast, we have like 15 seasons nowadays. And it's all because of that damn groundhog.
Well, the good news is I'm not using it for thermal protection.
No, you have thermal paste on your butt. That's what it's for. Anyway, let's talk today. We were going to talk. The reason I want to bring this up today, Eric, is I've been moaning and groaning about this to you for like a couple of weeks with vendors that we use at Virtua about the disconnect between their channel, or what they call the channel people, and us as MSPs. And this is weird for me because, yes, Virtua is an Apple-based MSP, and we have vendors that we work with. But our parent company, Virtua Consulting, also has things that are in the channel. And I try to not emulate those things, but I can actually now see where they're coming from when we're doing channel sales. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, in the training to be part of the channel, every vendor should live a day in the life of an MSP, and every MSP should live a day in the life of a vendor, because it would solve so many problems.
That's it. That's the whole episode. Thanks, everyone. But yeah, you're right. Like, I actually, it's funny you said that. The first thing that came to my mind was the Zappos story, which is like, no matter what position you were at Zappos, you always had to work on customer service phone support for 3 months before you went and did your actual job, because you needed to understand the ethos that is Zappos. And very similar to this, like, here's a great example. Let's talk contracts for a second, right? Because this is the big one. We'll dive a little deeper in a sec. We as MSPs don't want to be held to a 1-year contract, and yet me as the vendor is like holding people to a 1-year contract. And I'm like, why am I? It's look, everyone who listens knows I got problems. I'm trying to figure out why I would do that when I don't want it myself, right? Like, what is that, like, say unto others that you would want them to say unto you, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, but it's also more complex than that, right?
Of course,
because there can often be a disconnect between when your 1-year contract is with your client and your 1-year contract with the vendor. And so that can cause an overlap or a shortage, whichever direction it happens in, right? And can, in the end, stick the MSP with licenses.
Yeah.
And that's not a good situation. We all, I think, understand why we want 1-year contracts, right? But the reality is MSPs deal with such small customers that they cannot do a 1-year contract. They just simply can't. It's not in their DNA. And the opportunity needs to be there to provide month to month. Now, it's my wholehearted opinion that month to month, you should pay extra for it. Because really what you're doing, right, is you are mitigating the risk. So in exchange for less risk, you should have to pay more. And I think vendors could do that. I think MSPs can do that as well.
I don't mind that. I mean, weirdly enough, that's what Microsoft does, right? Microsoft allows you to pay. It's 20% upcharge if you pay month to month versus a 1-year commit. Because this is where the disconnect is, right? The vendors who force the contracts, that don't have a month-to-month option, that enforce 1-year contracts, and especially when they enforce like high watermark on 1-year contracts. They're enforcing those contracts on the MSP. But the problem that I have is, as the MSP, I cannot control whether or not my clients decide to go on a Coke bender and throw the entire company down the toilet and then sticking me with the rest of the bill. And sure, I have legal to cover that stuff to a degree, but they're going to sue me and I'm going to sue the client, and the client's spending all of his money on Coke. I'm not getting that money. Somewhere along the line, upstream, someone's getting messed up and someone's going to pay out. And it's probably the MSP, because the MSP can't, we all love Brad. can't afford to get into a legal battle with some of these big vendors who pay their legal teams more than the MSP makes in 10 years, right? So the idea that a vendor wants to do a 1-year contract and has no wiggle room, no month to month, no anything, really puts a stinger on the MSPs. And I understand why. I'll take both sides in this argument. I understand that vendors, when they get analyzed for pricing and things that revolve around finance and PE funding or whatever it is, those finance bros are doing everything on an annualized basis. And if you're going month to month, you can't do that. It could be close, but it won't be correct. So I totally get it. But what I don't understand is when the vendors who work in the channel don't recognize that the MSPs actually have little control on what their clients do, number one. And number two, think the MSPs are bigger than they are just because they have 800, 1,000, 1,500 endpoints they take care of. Right? Yeah. A 3-person MSP is not as big as a 50-person company that 3 MSP supports. So why are we treating the MSP like they're the 50-person company, not a 3-person company?
Right. And that's, if we kind of zoom out on this for a minute, that's really where the disconnect starts, right?
It's me zooming out.
Because we started kind of micro with talking about contracts, but if we take it to more of a macro level and talk about how vendors in the space are used to operating in a B2B motion primarily, especially if they have a direct motion and they started as more of a direct company. And MSPs, partially because of their size, but also partially because of the clients that they serve, act more like a B2C motion. And that's where a lot of this stuff kind of starts to disconnect. With, a B2B motion, you have extended sales cycles, you have formal contract negotiations, you have all that kind of stuff. You have complex pricing that has to be explained. It's not very transparent. And just all of these, it's a high touch kind of situation. Mm-hmm. But an MSP, and you and I have both lived through this, right? We have a client who needs something. We want to go to a website. We want to start a trial. We want to test it ourselves. And if it works, it solves the problem for the client. We want to buy it, period. And you can't do that with a B2B motion.
You definitely can't. And I was questioning whether or not the B2C motion is correct for MSPs, but it's not necessarily that it's a B2C motion. It should feel like a B2C motion, even though it's not B2C directly, which I think is it's B2C adjacent.
Well, it's a definition problem.
Right. Sure. Because, as the MSP, like, I want an NFR to try out because I want to make sure it's the right thing for my client. Or like you said, transparent pricing. Like the amount of websites I go to go look up a product and I can't find the pricing because obviously they only sell to MSP, so they don't want the pricing to be out there because they don't want the client seeing it. So then I got to go find the vendor who I can buy it from, like Pax8 or Ingram, to go find the pricing. And at which point I go look at their price sheets and it's 1,000 pages long and I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. And the other piece is that, like, I want support. Like, if I'm going to be a champion of your tool, basically, I need you to support me. And it's so funny to me how it's so hard to get support from some of these companies. When I come in and I'm like, hi, I'm the MSP of File trying to help my client with your product. They're like, no, the client has to call us directly. But I'm the one who pays for it for them. Doesn't matter. Cool. So I'll just hang up and I'll call back and I'll be like, hi, I'm from the client. Can you help me now? And they go, sure. Have you restarted it? And I'm like, I hate you and your mother. Like, it happens all the time. And I do like when there's a channel and they're like, oh, we're going to give you access to premium support. I'm like, cool. And then I call premium support and they're like, we don't know who you are. Bye. And hang up to the phone. I'm like, the premium support's useless. Like, there should be, like, I feel like you and I could set we could just build this on the website and literally have people download this, right? We can be like, do you want to start a vendor? You want to start to be a vendor in the MSP community? Here are the things you need. And like literally have like just columns and be like, just check these things. And if you can do all of these things, you're allowed to be a vendor. Like it's not hard. It's not hard to be a good partner. Like that's the other piece is we call them channel partners, but like it's very one-sided, right? It's not hard to be a good channel partner. Step it up, vendors.
There's history there, though.
I don't care.
There's history in a traditional channel. You know, think back to VARs, right? Which still exists, by the way, just in case you didn't know.
Sure.
But they still exist. So it used to go from the vendor to the VAR to the end customer, right?
Yeah.
And it was very unidirectional. The client couldn't control the VAR, and the VAR had no control over the vendor. MSPs and other consultants and other things moved in, and the channel got really weird, kind of. And the power shifted a little bit to the point where it's no longer unidirectional. The individual components or members of that ecosystem, rather than a channel, I guess I'll call it, have more power than they used to. And some of the vendors are being slow to realize this. And it's one of the things that's causing them friction. And it's really because we've all gotten so much closer, right? It's much easier to be transparent. It's much harder to hide things. And so, you know, the power struggle has shifted a bit. With MSPs, it's a very different customer a lot of times than what the VARs used to work with. The VARs used to work with larger companies because that's where they made the most money, because they're not
in volume. Yeah, it's in volume.
Yeah.
Real quick, your phone's ringing. You want to get that?
Huh?
I think the MSP like intercepts that unilateral, wholesale VAR client thing, right? But I've seen new vendors spin up and not be able to handle channel. Not that you're wrong. You're not wrong about the path, but in the history. But like I've seen new vendors spin up and they were like, no, this is the rules that we're going to apply. And it's like, but you're hurting the people who are trying to help you. Like that's my problem more than anything else, right? My biggest problem with all of this is I like your product enough that I think I should sell it to my customers because I think of all of the products that are in the same category, you are worthy, right? Eric's cybersecurity is the best cybersecurity there is. He'll protect the ever-living out of you if we use Eric's cybersecurity. Great. Okay? Eric, you have beat out CrowdStrike, you have beat out Blackpoint, you have beat out Pico, whatever the hell it's called. You have beat out all of them. Eric's cybersecurity is the one, right? I like your product enough to go to my clients and go, listen, all my clients, gather, lend me your ear. We're going to be installing Eric's cybersecurity because I, as your technological advisor, say it's the best. You can go to ChatGPT and find out if I'm wrong, but I've already told it not to. Cool. I've now sold your product to 1,000 users. And yet you think you can hold my foot to the fire when my users go do something stupid outside of anything I can control. And that's where the problem is, because you think that they're your customer and they're not. They're still my customer. They're a shared customer, sure. But like, they don't know who you are. You don't know who they are. You have to know who I am and work with me to keep those 1,000 customers. And when you say to me, no, Justin, you're in a 3-year contract and you can't go down by one user, I'm going to be like, guess what? Hey, Brad, can you call Eric's cybersecurity company for me and make something happen? Because I'm about to go to CrowdStrike. And that happens. I'm not the only, that happens all the time because you, vendor, care more about your annualized bottom line than you do about realizing the long-term play of keeping me happy for months on end. This is also why I think vendors stop sending swag. I used to get great stuff in the mail from vendors. Like I had a vendor who used to send me a chocolate bar every year. I had a vendor who sent me like barbecue tools and all that stuff. All that's gone away. I want my free shit back. Send me stuff.
So, it's interesting. I think one of the things that you pointed out there, you have a new vendor start up in the space. I think it's where the people who are running that vendor came from.
Okay.
Because if they came from traditional channel, they're going to run it like the vendors.
Yeah. Do what you know best. Yeah.
And there are a lot of these that have started up in the last 5 to 10 years. If that vendor grew out of an MSP, very different, and much easier for the MSP to do business with.
Because we like our own.
Well, we understand it. And that's why when I started this conversation, I talked about everybody needs to live a day in each other's shoes because they need to understand the problems from both sides.
No, and I agree. I agree with that, right? Like I do also like, now it's griping. We have a vendor, not going to say who like, I have an account rep. Dude never responds to my emails. And whenever I go to like a technical person, they're like, you need to bring this to your account rep. I'm like, well, that guy doesn't answer my emails. Can you just fix it for me or deal with it? And they go, yeah, sure. I have to do that every time. If my account rep actually gave a flying F about me, he would respond to my emails or send me an email that just says, hi, I'm busy, or like something. But when you get radio silence, it really makes you question whether or not the vendor is good or not. Now, the problem in this particular case, is that the vendor itself as a company is great. And a lot of people use their service and they do a lot of things with it. But like, I just got stuck with a dude who like doesn't care.
Well, and that's the difference between having your sales team running partner success and having a separate partner success team, because the salesperson, they've got a quota. They're not making any money if they're sitting on the phone solving a problem for you.
Mm-hmm.
It is directly contrary to what they are incentivized to do. But if you have partner success, they're not incentivized that way. They don't have a quota. They're incentivized on keeping you happy so that you don't leave. They're measured on churn.
The retention team.
Right.
You know, if you call FedEx and you say immediately, as soon as they say, hi, this is FedEx, you say retention team. Or actually your cell phone provider does the same thing. As soon as anyone picks up, you go retention team, they will immediately give you a discount just by asking every time. It's amazing. But yeah, no, you're right. We want to do vendors want to have channel sales because they want us to sell their stuff for them, but they need to have a good channel. What do you call it? Partner success championship, right? A channel championship that is out wanting to help the companies that are like MSPs that are helping other companies, right? Like if you're going to be a vendor in the channel, you have your sales guys selling to the MSPs, and you guys have the guys who are saving and loving the MSPs and sending them free stuff and keeping them happy because you want them to stay in your ecosystem. Because truth be told, like there's a couple of vendors who I'm thinking about right now that we use who by the end of 2026, we're not going to use them anymore. And not because their product's not good. Some of them, their products are great. Some of them are crap, but some of them are good. I just don't like the way that their partner team works with us. Yeah. And I'm not the only one, right? And I'm not even talking about the one that you think I'm talking about. I'm thinking about something completely different. Like the rules that they applied on me have been way too stringent for a small MSP. And they won't even take commentary. Like I give them my opinion and they're like, we just don't care, Justin. And I'm like, but I'm awesome. You should listen to me. I have a podcast, man. I'm an influencer. I'm not really. If I'm an influencer, I'd be terrible as an influencer.
Yeah. There's so much that goes into this, and a lot of it has to do with scale, right? When I talk about B2B versus B2C, a lot of what I'm talking about there is scale. And there's two types of scale, right? There's scaling to larger and larger customers, and they're scaling to more and more smaller customers. Mm-hmm. And they both come with very different problems, and you have to address them differently because they don't work the same.
That's kind of like why I'm tired of going to events where all of the messaging from all of the vendors in like a particular category are always the same, right? Because all the vendors who do, let's say, 365 security all say the same thing. Like, we're a single pane of glass protecting your 365, and like, we got it, so you don't have to. Okay. Well, I sell 50% 365, 50% Google. Can you help me? No. Right? Why not? Well, we can take care of your 50% MS365. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. Right? Like, you don't scale with me. I'm not going to pick you. But you still think that I'm going to use you just to get my Microsoft side covered? Like, why would I use two vendors where I can find someone who will do both? Right? Like, that scaling thing is what you're talking about. Or even some like you know who does this really crappily? I'll call them out because it's Kaseya. But Kaseya. Like, Kaseya bought Backupify, which was a great tool. Backupify backs up Microsoft 365 and backs up Google, but there's like this massive API issue where it won't back up Google users correctly. And it's been lingering for like years. And every time I get a new rep, which is probably every, 3 weeks at this point, because it's Kaseya, I tell them this and they're like, I'll look into it. And then they disappear because obviously anyone who looks into it is shot in the back of the head. I'm assuming, like, I don't know if it's some sort of like conspiracy theory. Cool. My last rep, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to tell you what the problem is. Just tell me when my contract ends because I'm leaving. Well, how can we keep your business? You can't. That's the problem. We have to be on top of so much as MSPs. If vendors gave a flying crap about MSPs and thought about them, like you said, be in our shoes and thought about the model we come from, we're not one business. We're one business that supports 50 businesses. And those businesses do things without us because we only support a microcosm of their business. Help us support that the best way we can. And stop making it about you. Start making it about me. Because it needs to be about me. Because if without me, you can't exist. And without you, I can't exist.
Well, unless you're Dell and you sell directly to the customer. But that's a whole different
topic.
Problem.
I don't sell Dell. About. I don't know how that works. Is Gateway 2000 still around? Those were cute.
Moo.
I just watched this like clip. I have to find the YouTube thing. It's like what happened to companies that like were like all the computer companies in the 2000s that disappeared, like Packard Bell and Gateway 2000, and there was another one. And then you know what the Gateway 2000 one was? Private equity got greedy and wanted to sell more units and changed all these pieces and did the things that the customers didn't want, vendors doing it to MSPs, and they went out of business.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot from history.
Yes, miraculously so. Like, and it should be no surprise that you can look at what worked and what failed and, do what worked. Now, I think that probably my big overarching way that I would talk about this to vendors is you got to do two things. And these are the most important things. And they're probably the only two things that matter. Have a great product, right? Do what the MSP needs done.
Check.
And then second, be easy to do business with.
No check.
Now, what did I not mention there, Justin?
Contracts or price?
I did not mention price.
Yeah.
And that is an extremely important part of this equation. Most MSPs will pay more for the conveniences, the twofold conveniences of month to month, not having that risk of being stuck with licenses, and being able to, just not have to worry about all the things, that support, all the things that you mentioned, support.
The things that get us stuck, yeah.
Being able to get correct invoices so that they can pass those invoices along with the markup, to their clients. PSA RMM integration, for example, to be able to do that automatically.
The low-hanging fruit.
Right. All of those things that reduce the friction to the MSP are worth money. And so they are going to pay more to the vendor that is easier to do business with than the vendor who's not.
100% agree. And I think that's a great way to end this. Check us out. We're going to start a new program called Are You a Good Vendor? on the All Things live shows happening Wednesdays on LinkedIn. I think you and I should get into business as like vendor coaching. Like we could offer, let's do that. Let's add it to the website. Throw it on the website. It's not that hard. You can take 4 seconds to ask Replit to build it for you. Add vendor coaching. If you're a vendor and you think you have a problem, reach out to Eric and I. It's $5,000 for a 2-hour session with the two of us. And we will sit and listen to you and then tell you whether or not we think you're doing it right.
Sounds
we'll
good.
We'll sit
to me.
and listen to you for 2 hours. And at the end, you will hear Eric and I go, yes or no, $5,000. I think this is pretty good. Someone will pay for it, I'm sure.
Well,
what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I think because of our backgrounds, right? Listening to MSPs is one of the best things that a vendor can do.
Mm-hmm.
And then take that, go back and figure out how they can remove the friction and remove the financial risk from the MSP without hurting the bottom line of the vendor.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Cool. Well, I guess
that's all I got.
That's all that wraps up this episode. If you have ideas that Eric and I could do as side hustles like vendor training coaching, let us know at facebook.com/group/all things MSP. Check us out at YouTube. Look at Eric's beard for the last time. youtube.com/all things MSP. Follow, like, subscribe, ring the bell. You know what to do. I'm going to leave with this last thought. We talked about that history. You can learn a lot from history. I was like, in my head, I was like, you know what we should do? We should do like a drunk history of IT on one of the live shows. If you want to see that, let us know on any of our channels. DM Eric and say drunk history with Eric and Justin. And then like of what IT, it's got to be a tech thing, like a tech thing. And Eric and I will do drunk history of that particular tech live on LinkedIn sometime soon.
Ish.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening or watching the All Things MSP podcast. If you liked this episode, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, hit that like button, and consider subscribing to catch all our weekly episodes. And from your host extraordinaire, Justin Esgar, and myself, Eric Anthony, your humble producer and All Things MSP founder, thank you very much for spending your time with us. If you are not aware, All Things MSP started as a Facebook group and now supports over 6,000 members. We also have a LinkedIn page for those of you who don't do Facebook, and make sure to check out our YouTube channel for even more content. A special thank you to our premier sponsors, EasyDmark, Gozinta, and Sync365. And thank you to the rest of our sponsors. Without sponsors, we could not do what we do for the MSP community. Please consider checking them out. The All Things MSP podcast is a BizPow LLC production. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of any employer, vendor, sponsor, or random taxi driver in the Metro DC area. Be sure to join us next week for another exciting episode.